The quantum alert pierced 9,000 years of silence. Deep within the void between stars, ancient machinery stirred to life. The Sentinel Station, humanity's final watchpost, had detected something impossible: the death of a galaxy. Commander Diana Thorne's cryopod hissed open, frost crystallizing in the sterile air. Her consciousness returned in fragments. Military training, tactical protocols, and finally, the weight of command. She was the first to wake, chosen by the station's AI to assess the threat that had triggered humanity's fail-safe protocol. "Status report," she croaked, her voice rough from millennia of disuse. The station's AI, responded with characteristic precision. "Commander, multiple extinction-level events detected across the Andromeda Galaxy. Pattern analysis suggests coordinated attacks. Estimated civilian casualties, 40 billion and rising." Diana's muscles screamed as she pulled herself from the pod, muscle memory from centuries of training taking over. The observation deck's windows showed only darkness, but the holographic displays told a different story. Entire star systems were going dark, their civilizations vanishing in hours. "Show me the threat profile," she ordered, forcing her mind to focus through the post-cryo fog. The hologram shifted, revealing something that made her blood run cold. A massive organic structure, like a living web of darkness, stretched across entire solar systems. At its edges, worlds died. "Classification: Nexus," Araya announced. "A parasitic hive mind capable of consuming both organic and synthetic life forms. Origin unknown. Current spread rate suggests total galactic infection within 2 standard years." Diana watched as another system went dark. "Wake the others. Priority sequence alpha." She moved to the command console, her fingers dancing across familiar controls. "And bring the fleet online." Deep within the station's massive hangars, rows of ships began powering up. The Terran Defense Force had slept for 9 millennia, waiting for exactly this kind of threat. Humanity had retreated from the galactic stage, not out of weakness, but strategy. They had become the Watchers, the final line of defense against extinction-level threats. Admiral Marcus Kane was the second to wake, his weathered face showing the same determination Diana remembered from their last deployment. "Still giving orders, I see," he said with a grim smile. "The galaxy needs us again, sir," Diana responded, bringing up the tactical display. "But this time, we're facing something worse than civil wars or imperial ambitions. This enemy doesn't want to rule, it wants to consume." Kane studied the display, his expression hardening. "How many ships can we bring online?" "The 7th Fleet is at 80% capacity," Araya reported. "Approximately 500 capital ships, 1,000 support vessels, all equipped with Mark VI quantum weaponry." "Not enough," Kane muttered, but there was no fear in his voice, only calculation. "We'll need allies." Diana nodded toward another section of the display. "There are survivors, scattered pockets of resistance across multiple sectors. If we can reach them, then we better move fast," Kane finished. "The Nexus is targeting population centers first. Any surviving military forces will be scattered, disorganized." Over the next hours, more crew members awakened. Tactical officers, engineers, and soldiers, humanity's finest, preserved through the ages for this moment. Diana watched as the massive hangar doors began to open, revealing their fleet to the stars for the first time in 9 millennia. The flagship, Prometheus, was a sight that would have struck fear or hope depending on which side of its weapons you stood. 3 kilometers of advanced technology, powered by a miniature star and armed with weapons that could crack planets. It had been built not for peace, but for survival. "All hands, battle stations," Kane's voice echoed through the station. "This is not a drill. Humanity stands as the last line of defense against an enemy that threatens all life in the galaxy. We are the Watchers, the guardians who stayed behind. And now we fight." Diana took her place on the Prometheus's bridge, watching as the crew fell into roles they had trained for centuries ago. The ship hummed with power, ancient engines awakening with a roar that shook the deck plates. "Set course for the Centauri resistance," Kane ordered. "If we're going to save this galaxy, we need to give its people something to fight for." The Prometheus led the fleet into hyperspace, leaving their hidden sanctuary behind. Humanity had slept for 9,000 years, waiting for the moment they would be needed most. That moment had finally come. As they accelerated toward their first battle, Diana couldn't help but wonder if even humanity's most advanced weapons would be enough against an enemy that devoured stars. But they had no choice. The galaxy was burning, and this time, retreat was not an option. The Centauri resistance wasn't what they expected. As the Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace, Diana saw not a military force, but a ragtag collection of refugee ships clustered around a dying star. Civilian vessels modified for combat, their hulls scarred from desperate battles. "Life signs detected across all vessels," reported Lieutenant Reza Shah, his fingers moving across the sensor array. "Approximately 20,000 survivors. Multiple species." Admiral Kane stood at the viewport, his reflection grim against the stars. "Open a channel." Before they could transmit, a harsh voice cut across their comms. "Unidentified fleet, you have entered protected space. State your intentions or be fired upon." The speaker's voice carried both authority and exhaustion. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Terran Defense Force. We're here to help." Silence filled the channel. Then, "Terrans. Impossible. The humans vanished 9,000 years ago." The voice belonged to Captain Val, leader of what remained of the Centauri Defense Coalition. "We went into hibernation," Kane replied, "waiting for the day we'd be needed most. That day has come." A hologram flickered to life on the bridge. A tall, elegant figure with iridescent skin and eyes that held centuries of wisdom. Captain Val studied them with both hope and suspicion. "Prove you're really human." Diana stepped forward. The Battle of Proxima. 9,000 years ago, humans fought alongside the Centauri against the Machine Empire. We used quantum torpedoes to collapse their supply lines, while Centauri ships provided cover fire. The tactic became known as the Proxima Gambit. Val's expression softened. Only true allies would remember such details. Her hologram turned to look at something beyond their view. "We have wounded thousands of refugees. The Nexus, it destroyed everything. Our homes, our fleets. We're all that's left of 12 star systems." "Not anymore," Kane said firmly. "You have humanity's full support." Over the next hours, the Terran fleet integrated with the refugee armada. Diana coordinated with Val, organizing supply transfers and medical aid. The Terran ships' advanced medical bays were soon filled with injured aliens of various species, each with stories of horror and loss. During a brief respite, Diana found herself in a makeshift war room with Val and Kane, studying tactical displays of Nexus movements. "It's not just consuming worlds," Val explained, her fingers tracing paths of destruction. "It's learning, adapting. Each world it takes makes it stronger." "Have you identified any weaknesses?" Diana asked. Val's expression darkened. "1. The Nexus can't consume quantum-entangled matter. Something about the quantum state disrupts its ability to break down and absorb materials. But that knowledge doesn't help us. Quantum weapons technology was lost millennia ago." Kane and Diana exchanged looks. "Not lost," Kane said quietly. "Protected." He brought up schematics of the Prometheus's weapon systems. "Every ship in our fleet carries quantum armaments. We didn't just hide. We preserved humanity's most powerful weapons, knowing they'd be needed again." Val studied the schematics with growing hope, but before she could respond, alarms blared across both fleets. Lieutenant Shah's voice cut through the chaos. "Multiple Nexus signatures detected. They followed the refugee trail." Diana rushed to the bridge, her training taking over. Through the viewport, she saw them. Massive organic ships, if they could be called ships at all. They moved like living things, their surfaces rippling with dark energy. All ships, battle stations. Kane commanded. Defensive Formation Delta. Protect the civilian vessels. The Terran fleet moved with precision, their ships forming a barrier between the Nexus and the refugees. Diana watched as the first Nexus vessels came into range, their organic forms distorting space itself. They're trying to establish a quantum lock, Val warned through the comms. Once they lock onto a ship, they start breaking it down at the atomic level. Not today, Diana muttered. All ships target the lead vessel. Quantum torpedoes, full spread. The Prometheus shuddered as it released its first volley in 9 millennia. Streams of quantum-entangled energy lanced through space, striking the Nexus ship. Where they hit, the creature's organic hull began to destabilize, its matter unable to maintain cohesion. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Terran quantum weapons tore through Nexus bioships, while modified refugee vessels provided supporting fire. But the Nexus adapted quickly, changing tactics and formations with terrifying intelligence. They're targeting the civilian ships, Shaw reported, calculating new vectors. Diana made a split-second decision. Divert power from aft shields. Give me everything in the forward quantum arrays. The Prometheus's main gun charged with energy that could be seen with the naked eye, a gathering storm of quantum potential. When it fired, the beam cut through 3 Nexus ships, their forms dissolving into quantum chaos. The remaining Nexus vessels retreated, but Diana felt no triumph. This had been a scouting force, testing their defenses. The real battle was yet to come. In the aftermath, Val joined them on the Prometheus's bridge. That was impressive, she said, but the Nexus will be back. With numbers we can't hope to match. Then we'll need more allies, Kane replied. The galaxy is vast. There must be other pockets of resistance. There are, Val confirmed, but reaching them won't be easy. The Nexus controls most of the major hyperspace lanes. We'd need to use the old ways, the dangerous ways. Diana looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, the Nexus was growing stronger. Whatever it takes, she said. Humanity didn't sleep for 9,000 years to fail now. The refugee fleet began emergency repairs while the Terran ships established a defensive perimeter. Their victory had bought them time, but everyone knew it was temporary. The real war was just beginning, and its cost would be measured in worlds. Through the swirling chaos of dark space, the combined fleet navigated ancient smuggler routes that predated the fallen galactic civilization. The Prometheus led the way, its quantum sensors mapping safe passages through regions that would tear conventional ships apart. Approaching the Void Archive, Lieutenant Shaw announced. The massive structure appeared on their view screens, a spherical installation half embedded in a dead star, its surface etched with patterns that seemed to defy physics. The last repository of pre-collapse technology, Val explained, her hologram flickering with interference from the archive's defensive fields. If there's anything that can help us understand the Nexus, it's here. Admiral Kane nodded grimly. Commander Thorne, assemble a research team. We need answers, and time isn't on our side. Diana led the expedition aboard the archive, accompanied by Dr. Kai Winters, the Prometheus's chief scientist, and a squad of Terran Marines. Val sent her own expert, a Centaurian archaeologist named Ven Rel, whose crystalline form glowed softly in the darkness. The archive's corridors were a maze of forgotten knowledge. Holographic displays activated as they passed, showing fragments of histories lost to time. But they weren't here for history lessons. There, Ven Rel pointed with a crystalline appendage. The Restricted Vault. According to legend, it contains weapons research from the final days before the human departure. Dr. Winters interfaced with the vault's ancient security systems. These encryptions, they're quantum-locked. Only a human command codes could. Stand aside, Diana ordered, placing her palm on the scanner. 9,000 years ago, her genetic code had been encoded into the archive's deepest protocols. The vault doors shuddered open, revealing a chamber that hummed with power. Inside, they found something unexpected. A message, waiting specifically for them. A hologram activated, showing a human scientist from the past. "If you're seeing this," the recording began, "then the Nexus has returned." The teen watched in stunned silence as the message explained humanity's true purpose in going into hibernation. The Nexus wasn't a new threat. It was ancient, perhaps as old as the galaxy itself. Humanity had encountered it before, driven it back at terrible cost, but knew it would return. "We couldn't destroy it," the hologram continued, "but we found its weakness. The Nexus operates on a quantum level, consuming and incorporating the patterns of everything it devours. But there's a frequency, a specific quantum resonance that can disrupt its entire network. We call it the Void Song." Dr. Winters studied the technical data with growing excitement. "This is brilliant. The quantum weapons we've been using, they're just scratching the surface. With this, we could." An explosion rocked the archive. Lieutenant Shaw's voice crackled through their comms. "Commander, multiple Nexus signatures. They'd found us." Diana grabbed the quantum data core. "Everyone out. Back to the ships." They ran through collapsing corridors as the archive's structure began to break down under Nexus attack. Through viewport windows, they could see the battle raging outside. Terran and refugee ships engaging massive Nexus forms that seemed to drain the very light from surrounding space. Just before reaching their shuttle, Van Rel stopped, his crystalline body resonating with the archive's dying energy. The knowledge, it can't fall into their hands. Before anyone could stop him, he interfaced with the archive's core systems. His crystalline form began to glow with increasing intensity. "Rel, no," Diana shouted, but the Centaurian archaeologist had made his decision. "Get to your ships," he said calmly. "I'll make sure they don't get what they came for." As their shuttle launched, the archive's power systems went critical. Van Rel used his crystalline nature to trigger a quantum cascade, transforming the entire installation into a weapon. The resulting explosion destroyed not only the archive, but 3 approaching Nexus vessels. Back aboard the Prometheus, Diana handed the data core to Dr. Winters. "How long to synthesize this Void Song?" "Hours, maybe days," he replied. "But Commander, the power requirements are enormous. We'd need energy equivalent to a dying star." Diana looked at Admiral Kane, who was already studying star charts. "Then we'll find one," he said. "Plot a course to the Helios cluster. It's time we took the fight to them." Val's hologram watched the tactical display as their fleet jumped to hyperspace. "The Nexus will expect us to go there. It's one of the few regions with stars volatile enough to power the weapon." "Good," Diana replied. "Let them come. Sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy sees coming." As they traveled deeper into contested space, Diana studied the ancient message again. There was something in the scientist's eyes, a hint of doubt, of hidden knowledge. The Void Song might be their best weapon against the Nexus, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't being told everything. The price of victory, she was beginning to suspect, would be higher than anyone imagined. The Prometheus's quantum drives hummed as they pushed through hyperspace, leading their fleet toward what would either be their salvation or their doom. Behind them, the archives remained scattered across dark space, taking countless secrets with it into oblivion. But one secret remained, locked in the data core they'd recovered. The true nature of the Void Song, and why humanity had really gone into hibernation all those millennia ago. Soon, they would all learn the truth, whether they were ready for it or not. The Helios cluster blazed before them, a graveyard of dying stars, each one a potential weapon in their desperate plan. The combined fleet moved cautiously through the stellar debris, their sensors scanning for both Nexus activity and suitable power sources. Dr. Winters had converted the Prometheus's main laboratory into a quantum forge, working tirelessly to synthesize the Void Song technology. Diana watched through the observation window as exotic particles danced in containment fields. "We're ready for the first test. Winters announced, his face haggard from days without sleep. "But there's something you need to see first." He pulled up data that made Diana's blood run cold. The Void Song wasn't just a weapon. It was a key, designed to unlock something sealed away eons ago. Something that had been waiting. Their discussion was interrupted by proximity alerts. Admiral Kane's voice echoed through the ship. Battle stations. Multiple quantum signatures detected. But when Diana reached the bridge, she found not Nexus ships, but something else. A massive vessel of unknown design dropped out of hyperspace, its hull covered in patterns similar to those they'd seen in the archive. "We're being hailed," Lieutenant Shaw reported. The figure that appeared on their view screen was neither human nor any known alien species. It was a being of pure energy, contained within an ancient mechanical shell. "I am Guardian Fenrir," it announced. "We have watched your progress since you awakened. The time has come for truth." Admiral Kane stepped forward. "What truth?" "The Nexus cannot be destroyed by conventional means because it is not a natural phenomenon. It is a weapon, created by my people, the precursors, to cleanse galaxies we deemed unworthy. But we were wrong, and in our remorse, we created a failsafe." Diana's mind raced to the implications. The Void Song. Yes, but activating it will have consequences. The quantum resonance will not only destroy the Nexus, it will unravel the very fabric of space-time in this sector. Everything within the Helios cluster will cease to exist. Silence fell over the bridge as the truth sank in. The cost of victory would be the complete annihilation of their fleet and everyone aboard. Before they could respond, space itself seemed to tear apart. The Nexus had found them, and this time it had brought its full might. Thousands of bioships emerged from quantum space, their forms blotting out the stars. "All ships, defensive positions," Kane ordered, but everyone knew their conventional weapons wouldn't be enough against such numbers. Guardian Fenrir's ship moved to join their formation. "You must decide quickly. The Void Song is the only way to end this. But the price." Diana looked at the tactical display, watching as the Nexus fleet approached. Then she noticed something, a pattern in their movement. "They're not just attacking," she realized. "They're terrified. They know what we found." The battle that followed would be remembered for millennia to come. The combined fleet fought with desperate courage, buying time as Dr. Winters made the final preparations. The Nexus pressed their attack with unprecedented ferocity, as if sensing their own doom approaching. Guardian Fenrir's ship proved to be a powerful ally, its ancient weapons tearing through Nexus vessels. But even with its help, they were being overwhelmed. "The Void Song is ready," Winters reported. "But we need to be at the heart of the cluster. The dying stars, their quantum instability will amplify the effect." Admiral Kane looked at Diana, then at Val's hologram, and finally at Fenrir. They all knew what had to be done. "Commander Thorne," Kane said quietly, "evacuate as many as you can to the civilian ships. Get them clear of the cluster." Diana stood her ground. "With respect, Admiral, my place is here." Val's hologram flickered. "The refugee ships will carry our story. The galaxy must know what happened here." As the evacuation began, the Prometheus and Guardian Fenrir's vessel pushed deeper into the cluster, drawing the bulk of the Nexus fleet with them. The stars around them pulsed with dying light, their quantum instabilities growing stronger. Dr. Winters worked feverishly at his console, aligning the Void Song's frequencies. "Once we start this, there's no stopping it. The quantum cascade will save the galaxy," Diana finished. She looked at the crew who had chosen to remain. Beings from across space and time, united in their final moments. The Nexus closed in, their bioships forming a sphere around the trapped fleet. But in their eagerness to destroy the threat, they had played right into the trap. Admiral Kane gave the final order: initiate the Void Song. The quantum forge activated, its energy connecting with the dying stars. Space itself began to warp as reality buckled under the strain. The Nexus ships tried to retreat, but it was too late. Diana watched as the quantum cascade began, transforming the very fabric of space-time around them. In those final moments, she saw the truth of existence, the interconnected quantum threads that bound all things together. And then, in a flash of light that could be seen across the galaxy, the Helios cluster vanished, taking with it the Nexus, the human fleet, and the last guardian of the precursors. The war was over. The galaxy was saved. But the price had been beyond measure. At the edge of what was once the Helios cluster, the surviving refugee ships emerged from hyperspace. Where 1,000 stars once burned, now there was only void. A perfect sphere of absolute darkness, marking where space-time itself had been rewritten. But something impossible was happening. At the heart of the darkness, a single point of light began to shine. The quantum sensors aboard the refugee vessels detected it first, a signal pulsing with familiar patterns. The void song had not just destroyed, it had transformed. And from that transformation, something new was emerging. The light expanded, revealing the Prometheus, but changed. Its hull now rippled with quantum energy, existing simultaneously in multiple states of reality. And aboard, the survivors had been transformed as well. Diana Thorne opened her eyes to find herself both present and infinite. The quantum cascade had merged them with the fabric of space-time itself. Admiral Kane, Dr. Winters, and the others who had remained. They were no longer merely human or alien, but guardians of a new kind of existence. The Nexus taught us that consumption leads to destruction. Diana's voice echoed across quantum frequencies. But transformation leads to rebirth. From the void emerged others. The beings who had once been the refugee fleet, now elevated to a new state of existence. Even Guardian Henry had been transformed, the last precursor finally finding redemption in this new form of life. They had become living quantum entities, able to traverse space and time, to reshape reality itself. But with this power came understanding and responsibility. We cannot remain. Admiral Kane's consciousness resonated. Like the precursors before us, we must become watchers, guardians of the quantum balance. But this time, we will not judge. We will protect. We will guide. Diana reached out across space, feeling the quantum threads that connected all things. The galaxy was healing, life continuing in the wake of the Nexus's destruction. But new threats would emerge, new challenges would arise. Then we will be ready, she declared, not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as shepherds of life itself. The transformed fleet began to fade from normal space, ascending to a higher plane of existence. But before they departed, they left behind a gift, quantum seeds of knowledge and technology, scattered across the galaxy like stars. Let them grow at their own pace, Val's quantum consciousness suggested. Let them find their own path to the stars. Dr. Winters, his mind now spanning multiple realities, had one last discovery to share. The Void Song wasn't just a weapon or a key, it was an evolution. The precursors didn't just create a failsafe, they created a path to transcendence. As the last of the transformed beings prepared to depart, Diana shared a final message across all quantum frequencies, a message that would echo through time. To those who find our legacy, we are not gone. We are transformed. When the galaxy needs us again, look to the quantum threads that bind all things. We will be there, watching, waiting, protecting. For we are no longer merely human or alien, precursor or refugee. We are the quantum guardians, and our vigil is eternal. The point of light collapsed in on itself, leaving behind only the endless expanse of stars. But throughout the galaxy, on countless worlds, beings looked up at their skies with new hope. The Nexus was gone, and though the price had been high, something miraculous had taken its place. Life continued, civilizations rebuilt, and in the quantum fabric of reality itself, the transformed watched and waited, ready to guide, protect, and, if necessary, evolve again. For in the end, the greatest victory wasn't in destruction, but in transformation. The galaxy had not just been saved, it had been reborn. And somewhere in the quantum threads that bound all things together, Commander Diana Thorne smiled, knowing that the 9,000 years of waiting had led not to an end, but to an entirely new beginning. The story of humanity hadn't ended in the Helios cluster. It had simply transcended to its next chapter. And this chapter would last for eternity. End of story.